So Hudson Clunt, so a young man out of Twin Falls High School in Twin Falls, Idaho. Probably the most interesting part of this recruiting story is Hudson is a young man who and this is telling you something, I coached his dad. And so his dad was a senior the 1 year that I was at Twin Falls High School, and Travis played tight end and linebacker, and I was his position coach and defensive coordinator, and kind of an interesting deal. And he ended up, their team came to our camp because the high school coach there now was the offensive coordinator on the staff at the time. They came to team camp. You watch him bend. He is a big, good-looking kid. I mean, he is, built the right way for an offensive lineman, flat-bellied, big booty. I mean, he's ready to go. And so, just excited about him. Really smart kid, good multiple sport athlete, a guy I think that can add value to us in a number of areas. I think he's probably a natural inside player, played tackle in high school. And so he's going to be a guy that I think is going to have an impact for us immediately. Excited about him. Great kid, wants to be a Bobcat. It's awesome. Okay? Jacob Kettles. Okay, so you'll notice on the release it talks about a gray shirt. And so what Jacob's going to do is he'll delay his enrollment until January of 2020. He's coming off an ACL. Had he not been coming off an ACL, that would have been a no-brainer for us to bring him in right away. And we would have probably been a lot more heavy recruiting battles. It came down to basically the same type of deal between us and Eastern Washington. Linden High School, which is Bryce Sturck's high school, a traditional power in kind of the northwest corner up by the Canadian border of Washington. Very well coached. Consistently, I think they played for the state title again this year. I think there's been numerous times that Linden High has played for the state title at their division in Washington. And so kind of a smaller town kid, mom and dad, great family. They came out on the visit. I think they just felt immediately like this was going to be a great fit for him. And he's a very, very athletic kid. He'd be playing basketball right now if he wasn't rehabbing from his injury. And again, kid that I'm very excited about. All of 6'4 plus. I mean, this guy can go. He's going to be a really good player for us. Justice Perkins, okay, the honey badger. All right, this guy, if you watch this kid's film, and I encourage you to do it, he puts more guys on their back than anybody. I mean, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to kind of come in, and I kind of compare him to Sean Sampson, a guy that's an undersized guy but can play multiple positions. Sean Sampson was a guy that everybody look at him and say there's no way he's going to get the job done, and every single time he got the job done, whether it was by moving his feet correctly, cutting the guy down, whatever it took. And so I thought the emotional leader of the Bozeman High team was this guy. A guy that has great energy, great in the locker room. My son played with him when he was an underclassman, and he had nothing but great things to say about him. He's a legacy. His father played here. He's going to be a lot of fun to have in the program, and I think he's a guy that could play on either side of the line of scrimmage. And so really excited about Justice and what he brings to the program. TJ Session. Okay, so TJ, guy from Vista Murrieta High School. Coach Armstrong, who actually just walked in a little bit ago, but Coach Armstrong kind of identified this guy a little bit later in the recruiting process, and I'm glad he did. Really, really excited about this young man. He's a kid who comes from a military family. His mom was an MP, and his dad was a drill sergeant. Okay, so I think we're probably not going to have any problems with TJ. And seriously, it was a pretty impressive family, and just the guys. I mean, he's kind of that guy that you want to kind of go squeeze his cheeks. He's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and grow into his body. Very dominant offensive lineman. Really was kind of the key cog for them and on their front for a very good high school football team. And so I'm extremely excited about TJ's future here, and love what he brings to our program. On the defensive line. Okay, so Tua, and this is not a actually it is a misprint because he weighed 385, not 380 when he came on his visit. Because I asked him, I said, what are you going to weigh, Tua? So I don't know, 340-ish, and about broke our scale. So he's a big boy, Tua is, and he hasn't played a lot of high-level football, and that's the thing that really kind of attracted me. Now this kid, excellent student, 3.8 core, very, very smart young man. Like a lot of Polynesian kids, kind of quiet, unassuming, and then they walk in and they kind of go, oh, you're like, okay, that guy's a large human. And so he's a guy that kind of excites. There's a lot of things that excite me about this kid because I think he's a very coachable young man who again hasn't played at a very, very high level for very long, and I think he's going to, and the combination of his physical ability and his intelligence, I think, are going to allow him to develop quickly in our program. And so I think it's going to be a win-win. He's going to eat up 2 gaps, I promise you that. And he's going to be an inside linebacker's best friend, right, Coach Daly? And so excited about Tua. At the linebacker position, Jahari Martin. So I've talked about this a couple of times, but you know, Coach Armstrong was a very highly regarded high school football coach at 2 excellent programs down in Polk County, kind of just east of the Tampa, Florida area. One was Lake Gibson High School and the other was Kathleen. And during his time down there, obviously, he was able to have some connections to a variety of people. And one of the things that came through that connection was this young man, Jahari Martin. And so Jahari was a guy that actually started his high school career at Lake Gibson High School and then transferred to Lakeland High School, which is in the same basic community there in Lakeland, Florida. And I mean, Jahari kind of, you know, set Twitter on fire when he had the shirt off in the home visit picture with Coach McGee, which I don't know how many guys have done that, but that's kind of impressive. And so he came on his visit, really likable young man. Actually, you know, what you think you're gonna, he's kind of one of those guys that you think you're gonna get something and you think you're gonna kind of get this brash, you know, kind of tough guy image, very quiet, very humble young man, very smart young man. So kind of don't read a book by its cover, don't judge a book by its cover type of kid. And he's was a team captain, was on a team that beat Lakeland, beat St. Thomas Aquinas, which is usually one of the top 5 teams in the country for the large school Florida State Championship. He was the team MVP, and he was the Polk County Defensive Player of the Year. Had 130 tackles. I could give you some other stats, but the other one that stood out was that he's had 4 blocked punts. And so was a dominant player. He played as a defensive lineman in his first couple years in high school and wanted to play linebacker, moved to Lakeland. They put him at linebacker, and he flourished. And so excited about his future here, and he'll be a really fun kid to have in the program. At defensive back, a lot of guys at this position in our, in our class. So Elijah King, this kid's an interesting kid. You know, it's funny when you start to get to know these young men and you get to know their families. This kid has a lot of depth to him. Wanted an engineering piece, but really what he wants to do is he wants to design and sell custom sneakers. And he does the artwork on them, and he'll airbrush them. He's got these pictures of all this, and it's phenomenally good. I mean, he's an exceptional artist, but he's brilliant. You know, he knows, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to get this engineering background so I know how to do the manufacturing piece, and then I might want to get a minor in marketing so I can understand the business. And oh, by the way, I want to see if I can do some graphic design stuff. I mean, he's got a really good plan for his life, and so I was really impressed by that. Excellent family, comes from Elk Grove, California, just south of Sacramento, Cosumnes Oaks High School. I think he's a guy that has a ton of versatility. We're signing him basically as a DB, but I think he could play slot receiver, he could return punts, he just could do a lot of things for us. And so very excited about his, both on and off the field, his future here at Montana State. Eric Zambrano. So Eric's a young man from, it says Summit High School, but he's actually from Upland. That's where he graduated from, probably one of the better programs in the Inland Empire, which is just east of Los Angeles. He, long, rangy corner. I mean, this is a guy that, as we were starting to engage with him in the recruiting process, there were a lot of Mountain West schools and even Pac-12 schools that were starting to kind of show interest in this kid. I don't know, I mean, Coach Armstrong did an awesome job with him. I really do. And we kind of had an in. One of my former players at Boise State is his position coach at Upland High School. And that sometimes means something, sometimes doesn't. I guess I was nice enough to this kid that he wanted to help us out. And it's, you know, kind of comes down to relationships again. And so we're excited about him. I think long corners are hard to find. He's a guy that could start at corner and grow into a safety. About 6'3", 190 pounds, and very athletic. Taylor, and that is correct, it's O-R. Tyler, I'm sorry, with an O-R. Bohannon from Grant High School, probably one of the more decorated high schools in South Sacramento. I mean, there's been some unbelievably great players that have come out of this place, both basketball players and football players. And Tyler's a tough kid, man. I mean, he's overcome some adversity in his personal life, kept his eyes on the prize, has done a great job of focusing on what he needs to do to put himself in a better situation. A guy that really Elijah King and Tyler, we kind of got turned on to by another former Boise State student athlete that lives in Sacramento. And this guy's scrappy, man. This kid's he's gonna be tough. I mean, he's gonna be in your face, let's play man to man, let's see what you got type of corner. And so very, very excited about him. I think he'll be a guy that is gonna try to come in and compete for something right away and get after people. And I think he's gonna bring an edge to our defense, and I'm excited about that. Dom Brown. So watch this kid's film. I probably don't need to say a lot. And I think this guy is special as a defensive back. I mean, you don't see guys that are this long. Not only is he a good man-to-man player, but he's also understands zone very well. I think he's a kid from Oxnard that just has got a huge upside. Quiet, humble, great mom and dad. Dad actually played college basketball at Oregon State University. Just a good, solid kid who's got a huge upside. Excellent high school basketball player. Oxnard High is one of the better basketball programs in their area right now in that part of the state of California. Awesome kid. Just excited about his future and can't wait to get him up here and start working with him. Wide receiver. All right, we got Jamad Monroe, Peanut, okay, from Lincoln High School in San Diego. So great job by Eric digging in on this guy. He was originally identified in the spring. We'd actually offered him early by Coach McGee down in San Diego. Eric went down on his 20 or 48-hour trip down to San Diego and dug in on this kid, and we felt like he was a guy that we couldn't pass up. I think he's got excellent film. He's in that 6'1.5", 6'2" range, about 185, 190 pounds, strong. Better physically developed than a lot of high school wide receivers you see, has good top end speed, can probably slide into the slot and give us a different type of athlete than Willie. I think Willie brings some great short area quickness things, and this kid can maybe stretch the field a little bit more vertically for us, and so excited about him. One of the things that was kind of funny in the recruiting process, I was like, well, do you like to compete? Yeah, what do you like to compete at? And he was talking about different things, and he was like, and I love competing with my sister on grades. And I thought that was an interesting deal that, he was going to compete with his sister who's already in college. And so excited about that. And I think, you could kind of see smile at kind of that infectious personality. So looking forward to having him here. These athlete guys, so a lot of these guys are kind of guys that we think could play on either side of the line of scrimmage. It just kind of depends. So Brock Spiegelberg, who's from Kelly Walsh High School in Casper, Wyoming. So this kid came to our camps. He was actually a guy that we were close to doing something with scholarship-wise early on. One of the more productive runners in the state of Wyoming. He was a two-time top 25 player in the state of Wyoming, both as a junior and a senior, and played excellent at both linebacker and running back, and so he's a guy that could play on either side of the line of scrimmage, and really good student, wanted the engineering opportunity, and so I think we're going to really benefit. The last guy that we had from Wyoming that we were super excited about and he was a walk-on kid, and now he's on scholarship, was Coy Steele, and Coy's just simply one of the hardest working guys in our program, and so hopefully Brock can come in and carry the flag for the Wyoming boys again. Logan Gilliard from Big Fork, so joining his teammate, and these two guys are kind of bookends. They were both at our camp, and they actually look fairly similar body type-wise. I think they're on an undefeated high school basketball team, a team that won the state championship a year ago. So Ethan and Logan are kind of those two guys. They're both in that 6'3" range, very similar body types, and I think he's a guy. The reason I put him at athlete is, number one, he's an excellent long snapper, which you cannot devalue that. I mean, that's a kind of an added bonus. And he could play either D-line or possibly tight end. And so we're kind of, we'll kind of see where it all comes together for Logan, but very excited about him becoming a Bobcat. We got two kids out of Big Fork, and excited about they're both those kind of that long, rangy Montana tough kid that you get excited about because you never know exactly how they're going to develop. Rylan Ort. So, I have some friends around the state that, you got guys you've known for a long time and you kind of trust. And ironically, some of those guys are high school football players in the state of Montana for me because of my background going to Western, a lot of guys going into education. And so when I get to the point where I'm like, are we missing anybody? And usually BJ doesn't miss anybody in Montana. And this was the name that kept kind of coming up. Hey, have you looked into this Ort kid from, he's pretty good, and so he played for Dane Oliver up there in enemy territory, and yeah, he is pretty good. I think he's a guy that he could probably most likely fit on the defensive side of the ball as a safety, but just feel like he's a tough kid, again, a tough Montana kid that adds value to your roster, and so excited about his presence here in our program in the near future. Jack Galt from over at White Sulphur Springs, another kid. This guy kind of played everything. Six-man football, plays a little bit of everything. Primarily was used as like a defensive end and I guess a tight end fullback in their offense. And again, just a tough Montana kid, man, just from over the hill. And he'll bring his lunch and go to work every day and give you everything he's got. Might fit into a fullback role for us, similar to what R.J. Fitzgerald from Dillon has been for us. And so another guy that you can't. I had this long conversation with our staff the other day about how important it is I know we're spending all this time down in California, and I'm going to Texas, and maybe it was just me personally. I'd been so many dadgum places. I was like, we can't forget about these Montana kids. And the one thing I will say, and I really commend BJ for this, is, you know, he is always pounding the table for those Montana kids. And so you never know who the next guy's going to be that gets that opportunity and takes advantage of it and becomes the next great Bobcat, because they have so much pride in being a part of this great university in their home state.